Hello, Dr. Jones DC here, and I'm so excited that you're watching the first webinar. This is my intro webinar that gives a 10 to 12 minute explanation. I have a much deeper series of webinars, part 1, part 2, part 3. So hopefully after watching this video, we've wet that whistle enough so that you can jump into the rest of the webinars. Make no mistake, this FLOA Protocol, what I created, it's been my life's work, and I'll talk more about my personal struggles and journey on part 1. But I created structure where structure was missing in this world of prolonged fasting to set people up for success with sustainable weight loss. Now, you might be looking at Semaglutide, Tirzepatide, maybe you're already on it, or maybe you're near the end of your journey and you're trying to get off of it. You probably found us through one of our social media outlets, and so you've seen a ton of videos where we've talked about the tremendous amount of success that we have with our patients. And make no mistake, we provide a guarantee of results. That's right. Our patients are losing in this program about 1% to 1.5% of their body weight lost per week. And so depending on what length of program you get with us, we're going to guarantee that. And if you don't hit that goal, we will continue to coach you there at no additional cost till we get you to that end goal. Remember guys, it's not about just losing the weight, because if that's all you cared about, you could just take the Tirzepatide and be done with it. But you're looking at this program because you want to be set up for success for the rest of your life, to be able to maintain that weight and not utilize the medications and peptides, because I don't want anybody being on these medications longer than they have to. And we're gonna actually talk about my concerns about that over here in the next section. Let's dive right into it, guys. This is the brief 10-minute explanation of what this program is and why it's been so wildly successful for us. Okay, so what we're gonna cover are my concerns over GLP-1 medication usage long-term. We're gonna talk about a brief overview of the science of obesity, the difficulty with sustainable weight loss. We're gonna talk about flow fasting, which is at the centerpiece of the FLOA Protocol, the cheat codes and how we make it easy, and then putting it all together to a wildly successful program. Okay, so the GLP-1 medications that you guys have heard of, Ozempic, Wegovi, Mounjaro, Tirzepatide, Semaglutide, right? These are going viral, as they should, because quite frankly, these are the most potent appetite suppressing medications that I've ever seen. Unfortunately though, it's not all sunshine and lollipop and rainbows, because there's a little bit of a dark side that we need to understand about this. So number one, we don't have long-term safety studies. And this is really confusing because GLP-1 medications have been around for about 20 years, but the earlier acting ones, formerly known as Ozempic, prior to semaglutide's release by 2017, it was FDA approved. But prior to that, the other versions are injected on a once-a-day basis. And so even though they consider it the same type of class of medication, they had to severely alter it to make it last so that it's one injection per week. And so we just don't know the ramifications of those changes to make it more potent. And I believe we're gonna find out over time the negative consequences of that. So no long-term safety studies on these longer acting GLP-1 medications. We know they can cause active pancreatitis. I see it in my clinic all the time because we do routine blood work and we have to remove the patients off the medications. It does cause, although rare, some thyroid medullary cancers in rodent models. And so we don't start anybody on these medications that have a family history of thyroid cancers. Not to mention too, everybody that stops the medication regains it back. This has actually already been proven by the literature, if the prior wasn't enough reason to be concerned about these medications. Now, with all that being said, I'm still in favor of utilizing these medications because staying overweight, staying obese, we know is going to kill you. And we don't need more literature to confirm that. So what the heck are we supposed to do, right? We gotta have a plan of attack so that we can successfully utilize these medications and be able to get off of them and actually maintain our weight rather than regain it back. And we're gonna get into how we're accomplishing just that. Now, side note, for a completely different thing to be thinking with in the back of your mind is, let's say you have no concern over the potential health consequences of these medications. What about the financial aspect? So these are very expensive medications and it's all fine and dandy when your insurance company is covering them, but what happens if your insurance company stops covering them? What happens if you lose your insurance? Are you prepared and ready and able to pay $1,000 to $1,500 per month for medication? You might think twice about it when you think about it from that perspective. Okay, so a brief science behind obesity and sustainable weight loss. When we look at obesity, there has been calorie counting at the centerfold of our approach and understanding. Well, if you eat less, you're gonna lose weight. So people that are obese are eating too much. And that's just actually not the case, and very observable by the fact that for several decades now, we have been trying to reduce our caloric intake, increase our activity, yet obesity continues to skyrocket. The reason why calorie counting doesn't work is because we have what's called a weight set point. Think of it like a thermostat in your house. Your body is trying everything that it possibly can to keep your weight at a weight that it desires to keep. And my longer webinars are gonna get into the mechanics of that. For example, if you have a thermostat set to 70 degrees, so imagine you bring a portable AC unit to crank it down because you're hot, you initially cool off a couple temperatures. But then what ends up happening is the receptors for the thermostat register that decrease and override it by increasing the larger heaters in the house. And despite that heater, that little portable AC unit being on, the temperature of the house always makes it back to 70 degrees. Now you have 70 degrees with the AC unit on. That's a bit of a problem, because how does that look and how does that translate into human beings who are actually trying to lose weight? Is you end up losing weight initially, just like that AC unit in the house initially, but then your body literally slows down your metabolic rate and it increases your hunger. And so depending on some genetic components and some other unknown components, people will hit that plateau within 15 pounds. They may be able to starve themselves off, starving meaning restrict calories, all the way to 50, 60 pounds. But ultimately they hit that roadblock. They're eating less food, they're not losing weight, and the hunger's cranked up because the thermostat is trying to bring the temperature back up, right? So how the heck do we lower the thermostat? Because that really is the key to maintaining weight loss and essentially handling obesity, guys. And we gotta address insulin. So insulin is the culprit. When you look into the hormonal theory of obesity, in my opinion, that is the answer to what's going on with obesity, and it's a very complex system. But if we could just understand insulin, I think we're gonna understand the most important aspect of it. Insulin is the most effective and most potent fat storing hormone in the body. Literally, when insulin is elevated, your body cannot burn fat. And when insulin is elevated, your body is in storage mode. Despite caloric intake, and there has been plenty of literature showing different aspects of that, and I talk more about that in my longer webinars, guys. And what's keeping the insulin levels high is a condition called insulin resistance, which is, long story short, your body is no longer responding to insulin. Insulin's job is to get the blood glucose and nutrients from your blood into the cells. And so if you become resistant to insulin, the only thing the body can do is increase the insulin. And therefore, we're in this state of chronically elevated insulin, which is inhibiting our weight loss and cranking that. It's like keeping that thermostat high. And because we are slowly gaining weight, insulin levels are slowly getting higher. That's why that thermostat keeps increasing over time. Okay, so how do we beat this? How do we get in front of this? Welcome to the FLOA Protocol, guys. FLOA, fasting like our ancestors did. Science meets practicality. This has been my life's work. And essentially what I did was I created the world's most aggressive format for prolonged fasting. Prolonged fasting is fasting that exceeds 24 hours and really challenges the body to adapt in so many different ways, right? And so in essence, what we're doing is we're putting our patients into a weekly 48+ hour fast. It can go a little bit longer depending on the person. The reason why we're doing that is because the best way to heal insulin resistance is longer periods in the absence of the release of insulin. This is why fasting is so potent, and this is why prolonged fasting is the most logical solution, because it's the longest period of time. And what I did with the FLOA Protocol is just make it the most aggressive version of the best format of fasting, which is this 48-hour every single week format, and put structure to it. Now, I know that might sound pretty wild if you've never even heard of the concept of fasting more than 24 hours, let alone 48, and let alone every single week. But we got a cheat code, guys. We got a way to make it easier. And you probably might be already thinking, well, maybe the semaglutide is gonna help. That's exactly what I thought when I first heard about these medications years ago. Because remember, I've been putting patients through these long periods of fast for about a decade or so without the medications, and it was hard. But now we have Tirzepatide and AOD 9604. Tirzepatide is Mounjaro. You can use semaglutide too, but we prefer Tirzepatide. It's just better than semaglutide. It's got a better side effect profile. But the one you might not have heard about is AOD 9604. AOD 9604 is a fragment of the human growth hormone, and what it does is it mobilizes the body fat, right? When we embark on a long fasting journey for the first time, we're met with two roadblocks: hunger and essentially everything else that's a result of your body's inability to fuel itself because it's got a daily requirement of calories during those fasting periods, right? That's what metabolic flexibility is. There's no more carbohydrates. Can I burn my fat and run off of that? Well, everybody who hasn't done a lot of prolonged fasting or years of a ketogenic diet is not very metabolically flexible. And so we need help. So this is why I call AOD artificially induced metabolic flexibility, because it essentially bridges the gap. So we have AOD fueling us and we have Tirzepatide crushing the hunger. You see how the combination of both allows for a very sweet spot to make the FLOA fasting a reality. And boy, does it do just that. Our patients will tell you, we have so much success and testimonials talking about how they're able to do fasting in a format that they've never thought was possible. So what we're doing to the body is we are healing the insulin resistance, so we're increasing insulin sensitivity, we're reducing inflammation, which I'll talk more about inflammation's role with weight gain and blocking weight loss in my longer videos. But the reduced inflammation, increased insulin sensitivity, and improved metabolic flexibility are what we need to do to the body so that we can then live the FLOA lifestyle. So what is the FLOA lifestyle? This is the format that I think is the easiest format for somebody having lost weight, especially through our program, to be able to keep your weight off for the rest of your life. All the standard things are still at play: lifting weights, a good healthy diet, stress management, all those things we're not changing any of that. But what I'm saying is, if we want to keep the weight off and we want to make it less stressful, we should do a prolonged fast pretty frequently. We don't do it every week anymore because that's just what we needed to do to get the weight off of our body. But what I am saying is that we should do a 48-hour fast, and we should vary it, which is, we'll talk about that in my other webinar, but a long fast every 2 to 6 weeks. There's a big gap in range there because everybody's life is different. You're gonna have great months, you're gonna have bad months. But if you average, say, a 48-hour fast every 3 weeks, for example, how the heck are you ever gonna gain weight again? Because how are you ever gonna get insulin resistant again? Every couple weeks you are doing this long fast, which is going to reduce inflammation, which is going to keep you insulin sensitive, and it's gonna keep you very metabolically flexible. And by the way, guys, the hunger is gonna be so much more reduced because of those changes. You won't need the medications and you won't need the peptides. This, in my opinion, is true increases in health, because we want to get you off the medications. We want to make your body be able to rely on its own so that it can live a healthy lifestyle. And that's exactly what our patients are doing with the FLOA Protocol, guys. So that's it for this brief introduction. I hope you're excited for your first call with one of my health coaches or patient educators. Again, I really implore you to watch part 1, 2, and 3. You can watch them in your car. I made these webinars so that you can follow along. If you're driving, I don't want you focusing on the YouTube video, but just listen in the car. If you can listen to those 3 parts before your first call, then you're gonna be way ahead of the game and you're gonna be very, very educated so that you can make the best decision for your health. We'll see you guys later.